hand on the sidelines when everybody else doesn't, you could take advantage of opportunities. If you're in business and your supplier goes out of business, buy up all the inventory that makes sense for you. Buy it lower because they're going out of business. You take an ethical advantage of that opportunity and you put that to work in your business because you have cash when needed. That to me is a far superior model. But here's the difference though. This type of planning, this mentality, you have to take a hands-on approach. If you're looking to be hands-off and very passive, this won't work. And that's one area that I think that would really separate the kind of advice that Mike and I are talking about versus, let's say, a Dave Ramsey approach or anybody else that usually talks about buy and hold, or I call it buy, hold, and pray. Anything that's like that, you're really being far more passive. And if you can do it without emotion, okay, that's fine. And you just set on autopilot. It's easy advice, but that's because it's passive. If you want to be more hands-on, more tactical with your planning and the financial results, you really want to put yourself in a position where you can be tactical, which means you've got cash reserves where you can get at them quickly, easily, without taxes, without penalties, etc. So, all right, talked about my financial planning pyramid. So your situation should tell you when you should begin contributing to these plans, not your employer. By the way, your employer has a very vested interest in having as many people contribute into the 401k plans. And the reason is because there's top hat testing rules. And I forgot the acronyms of all the things. I forget actual deferral percentage, actual contribution participant. There's these different testing rules of 401ks that if they don't have enough of the rank and file contributing, the people who earn the most can't defer the most. And there's a way around that. It's called having a safe harbor plan, but that requires the employer have a mandatory contribution regardless of whether you contribute or not. And sometimes the employer doesn't want to do that, so they'd rather roll the dice. So, being able to know what your options are, the consequences of them, I think it's very important. By the way, if I remember right, the Pension Protection Act of 2006, and I was in the business at that point, and this was kind of a big deal. One of the things that it required is that when employers have a retirement plan, they require everyone to be automatically enrolled in that plan, but you as a plan participant can always opt out. You don't have to do anything you don't want to, but they do require that you're automatically enrolled until you opt out. So that's something to keep in mind. So if you can afford to put that money into these retirement accounts, great. If you can't, that's really, let that be your employer's problem, not your problem. You got to take care of your things now. There's an article some time ago that 401k plan contributions were lowered or halted because of credit card debt. So, I mean, you might think, gee, I need to get this account going. And you do, but then the credit card debt is even worse. And if you end up putting money into the 401k where you can't get at it, and then you have to rob it at some point, when you can get at it to pay off the credit, you're not doing anything. And if anything, the only other person that's benefiting is the Wall Street broker or investment advisor who's making the fees off the plan while the money's in there, and the government, because they're going to charge you taxes and penalties.
Well, and the credit card companies for their interest rate.
Yeah, well, that's for getting to the debt in the first place. So here's the thing. The government is the largest beneficiary of your retirement plan if you're retiring successfully. Now, what do I mean by that? I've done some preliminary math on this stuff. And one of the things for the planning that we really like, which is tax-exempt retirement cash flow. That's why I got that tagline, the tax-exempt wealth guy. And I really love that. But I found that there is a line where it does not make sense mathematically. Now, even if it doesn't make sense mathematically, some people might want to do it anyway just because of their own belief system. That's okay. As long as they know that you're not really going to net out an additional benefit. But if you like the plan, great. Okay, we'll help you do it. Darn, twist my arm some more. I'll make a sale. I'm okay with that. As long as we told you that you might not be in the greatest position. But generally, if you have retirement assets of $500,000 or more, What the heck? Okay, that was your phone. Um, so anyway, if you have retirement assets of $500,000 or more, can generally benefit you. If it's a 500,000 or less, generally, I'm not sure that it is to your mathematical best interest. You might still want to do it, but that doesn't mean that the math always makes sense. So, all right, Daryl asked, great point. Can you explain a little bit how the government is the primary beneficiary? Yeah, I can explain a little more. Um, in what order would you receive? Do you finally become the ultimate beneficiary of your life insurance? Not your life insurance, your retirement planning. Well, we have to figure out who is in the overhead, retirement overhead, and nobody talks about it like this. And sometimes I wonder if I'm making up terms, and maybe I am, but it can make sense. So, retirement overhead, who gets paid first? You got the federal government, state government, depending on your state, which is most states. You have your local county and city taxes. You have taxes on your Social Security. Now, the reason that you have taxes on Social Security is because you have assets elsewhere. And because you have assets elsewhere, they're taking out income, you have taxation on that. Really annoying on that. And by the way, Trump has promised to get rid of that. Haven't seen that yet, but he's promised it. We're working with the way the tax laws and everything are today. And even if everything went away, retirement planning using life insurance is still superior. So I'm still I'm gonna die on that hill. Sad to say that in regard to life insurance, but still, I'm gonna die on that hill. Life insurance is still superior. Now, that's still the fourth one. Now, the fifth one is IRMA, Medicare IRMA, income related monthly adjustment amount. Took me a long time to memorize that acronym. And then with traditional planning, you have an asset under management fee to manage the entire bucket of money to do everything for you. So the investment advisor and all the overhead there. And then finally, you benefit. All those people get paid first, and they're getting paid as you're going. So as you're building up these accounts, that's all part of it. You got your FICA tax. We talked about that last week before, whatever it was. You're paying your federal and state taxes on your income, although you're slightly lowering it for your contribution. There's other math to go with that. And you're paying the assets under management fees on everything. Everybody's getting a piece of the pie. Now, here's what's interesting with life insurance. With life insurance, you will have less money in the contract. I love owning that. I think I've shared this on here before. I said a private briefing. Guys talking about private placement life insurance and say, hey, let's do 7.5% as average each and every year. Guy asked me, what do you do differently, David? I said, well, I use the whole life insurance. Oh, what's the rate of return on that? I said, oh, it's negative. And I owned it. And the reason why that one's okay, have less of a planned balance in there is because it will help you spend more efficiently. So it depends on what the purpose is. If you're only planning for net worth, this won't make sense because you're not planning towards a particular goal, a particular target that we're managing for how much capital you need for that target. So if all you want is net worth, this stuff isn't going to make sense. If you want a particular outcome, what we do is far more efficient. It takes less money to do it, which is beautiful once the math is understood. And Daryl, he is in that study group. He's taking advantage of that, so he's learning all about this from the masters himself. So I happen to know that. But yeah, government. Not only is the government taxing you along the way, they're taxing you as you're taking it out. And then if you're not taking out enough, they're going to force you to take out more because they want their taxes. And if you don't take it out, and this is a change. It used to be a 50% tax on top of what you're supposed to take out if you don't take out enough. Now it's only 25%. Oh, how generous our overlords are.
Their benevolence.
How nice they are. And of course, I'm sure we've all heard of the Nancy Pelosi story. It was the previous administration. They caused this train wreck of an economy. So we're going to waive RMD. They did it so that they can make sure that when people sold out of their holdings, they weren't selling out at a low value and having lower RMD requirements. They did it, to make sure that your account balances can go back up and they can charge taxes on a higher amount. So Daryl asked a great question. What happens to the 401k if they pass away unexpectedly? Beneficiaries also have to pay taxes first before they get any of the money. So with a 401k plan, if and let's assume it's a non-spousal, because with a spouse, I think they can just continue it. Because a non-spouse, they have to liquidate it within 10 years. There's a new 10-year liquidation rule that's part of the Secure Act 2.0. This is what pretty much took away what they used to call the stretch IRA provisions, where you can take out minimum required distributions and have it work for generations. That is gone. Ed Slott, one of his first books was How to Parlay Your IRA into a Family Fortune. Yeah, that's gone now. Forget that. Life insurance is far better for doing that. So if they pass away, the beneficiaries can take out distributions, and what are they usually going to do? Probably liquidate the whole thing, depending on their age and their current situation. And they're going to take it out, either a lot of it all at once, or they're going to stretch it. They're probably not going to wait the full 10 years. I'm just looking at human nature, and people need more money these days. When they take it out, they will owe federal taxes and state taxes. I don't think they're going to have to owe a penalty on it, because it's an inherited IRA. An inherited IRA, you got to follow the rules. So as long as you're following the rules on an inherited IRA, non-spousal, you're not going to have to pay a 10% penalty, I believe. There, I covered myself in case I got it wrong. So but keep in mind that income is on top of whatever other income that they've got. So if you're making a pretty good income and this money comes in, you're starting to liquidate this stuff. You're going to pay taxes on that at a higher amount. So if your kids are really successful, let's suppose that they're in the current 39.6% tax bracket, they'll basically pay 40%. That's just federal on that money. So they're going to pay that tax. Now, whether they withhold it out of the distribution or they pay it later on, that's a semantics thing. Either way, they're going to owe it, because it's going to be reported on their taxes. So, question: do you think raising RMD to 75 will have the rubber band effect on FRA, full retirement age? Social Security hasn't changed much in terms of benefits. Was that?
Yeah, like forever, in a long time. Yeah, it hasn't changed at all.
It hasn't. Right now, deferring your Social Security to age 70 and a half, which makes, and we're going to cover this more in another time, we talk about maximizing Social Security and minimizing income taxes. Delaying to 70 and a half makes a lot of sense, especially if you're married and one of you is a higher income earner. The higher income earner should delay as long as possible. And that doesn't mean you can't claim on your spouse's benefit. So if your spouse was working and that they have a spousal benefit, you could claim that one as long as they've claimed. But otherwise, no, I mean, age 67 is still the maximum full retirement age. You can still defer to age 70 and a half. After that, it doesn't make sense to defer anymore. We've got the earnings test and all this other stuff that none of that has really changed. There has been some talk, and remember that Nikki Haley, back during the GOP primaries, a year or so ago, she talked about reforming Social Security and changing the age banding, and she was booed, which also tells me how much people do not understand Social Security. So, because really something's got to be done, but I don't know, the people in the audience acted like they were French. And remember, back years ago, the French revolted because they were going to change their retirement. I forgot what the years were, but they were going to do this modest change. And oh, yeah, they said it in French, but hell no, But so RMD changing is not going to affect the full retirement age of Social Security. They're two different things. RMD is about the retirement accounts as opposed to the Social Security benefits. So, now, we talked a little bit about the retirement plans. One of the best benefits, though, of these retirement plans, especially 401ks, SEP, SIPL, SEP, STAR, SEP, 403B, 457, whatever those acronyms are, one of the best things about them is that they're portable. Because we're in a different kind of employment environment, at least we have been in the past 40 years. People can change jobs and change companies. And when you change companies or change jobs, you can move your plan with you as long as the new employer has a qualified plan of some kind to move the money into. So that's a benefit compared to pensions. Pensions are stuck with the employer unless you've vested yourself to be able to have a rollover benefit or something, which the truest sense of a pension doesn't do that. There are pension plans that will let you do that, but you have to have a qualified retirement. You have to really qualify to be able to do all that. And I think those really largely exist in union type of jobs now.
Yeah. There's hardly
unions.
Virtually none of those. There's hardly any pensions left, period.
Yeah.
I mean,
very few.
I mean, if you can find a job with a pension, I applaud you. And I mean, that's, even several employers that I know of recently even just got rid of their pensions for new employees. So.
And it depends on the purpose of them. So, I just, did this San Diego NAFA Small Business Planning Summit about 2 weeks ago or so. And I'm learning a little bit more about cash balance plans. But the idea of them is for the employer to maximize their deferral. It's not really about the employees. And one reason I know that is because you can legally discriminate against 60% of your employees. So it's really good for smaller, medical practices. You have a small staff of like 10, 15 people, so you pick your favorite 4, right? They get to be included. The other people no. And probably you choose the youngest ones so you could put in the least amount for their purpose. And they could have 95% of that money working in a pension for them. So this is business owner planning. That's the purpose. But in order to get the tax benefits, whenever you want an upfront tax benefit, there's hoops to jump through. That's just a bottom line a thing to keep in mind. So if you want a tax benefit up front, there's hoops. And as long as you can satisfy that, you can do it. So yeah, there are still pensions, and I'm looking forward to helping some business owners learn about those benefits. And because if they have $500,000 or $1 million a year that they need that they would like to not pay taxes on, well, a pension plan can definitely help with that. And I wouldn't mind helping them with that because you can fund a pension with life insurance and annuities. Now, the only thing about a pension is that they're still fully taxable. Here's something I learned about pensions. I didn't realize this until I went to that event. Let's suppose, and I'm just going to make up a number. Let's suppose you have $500,000 in a life insurance policy in the pension plan. So again, this is going to be fully taxed when you pull the money out. It just happens to be in a life insurance asset. You can swap it with, if you have $500,000 outside the plan, maybe you sold the business, take that money and buy out the life insurance plan, and you bring the life insurance out of the pension plan dollar for dollar. So you get to have the tax benefit of the life insurance in exchange for whatever cash you had. So you can swap it out. Doesn't change the taxation on the pension, but you get to have that tax benefit and that asset of the life insurance. I never heard that before. And I checked it with multiple sources. It's absolutely true. So you never know what's possible. But the idea of that is we're maximizing for a high income earner who happens to have a business. Can they do some of that stuff? Yes, but it's not for the rank and file. Now, if I happen to have a business owner watching, thank you. Keep listening. We're going to do some more business owner stuff later. But the thing is that knowing that our retirement is largely up to us is so important. But keep in mind that we got to make sure we have money for liquidity, use, control, that when things come up, can we handle those things? Are we prepared for them? You got to have a nice sizable, not nest egg, but emergency fund. We call it emergency fund. Well, I don't know. There got to be some other name for it, but for other opportunities. I mean, if it take rainy day fund, the FU fund, that's a good term.
The FAFO fund.
I like that too. I'm gonna start using that one. That is good. Although I might try to class it up a little bit. I like the way Captain Picard said it in an episode, and he said, "You may test that assumption at your convenience." That is the classy way to say the same thing. But anyway, at least with these plans, they are portable. You can move them. You can generally choose the underlying investments within these plans of whatever's available. I think a lot of plans are over-engineered. I've seen some of these Fidelity 401k plans, and they have like 60 funds. How the hell is a novice, and by definition, every retirement plan participant is a novice, how are they supposed to pick? and they can listen to, just throw in the S&P 500 fund. Well, is that the appropriate fund for them or not? Then you got these target date funds that supposedly become more and more conservative the closer you get to retirement. So they, stocks, bonds, and whatever else, and they move their asset allocation close. You just pick, I'm going to retire in 2040, and it's going to keep moving things. By the way, there's always a cost to convenience, so that will have a little bit higher cost in the prospectus for doing that. So there's so much there, but the question is, does it make sense for you, the listener, to begin working with a qualified retirement plan? Like everything, it depends. Better to have some money somewhere than nowhere. But how's everything else looking? It's kind of the bottom line on that one. So, yeah, because you can't touch it. It's really not yours. It's the government's. And quite frankly, if we look at it, all right, Mike, I put you on the spot here, but you should know the answer to this. What does the A in IRA stand for?
Arrangement.
Arrangement. It does not stand for account. And sorry, Tom Hegna, it does not stand for annuity.
We love you, Tom.
Yeah. No, it stands for individual retirement arrangement. So here's the fun questions. Who arranged the arrangement? Who's the majority shareholder of that arrangement? Who sets the rules for these arrangements? And how often can they change the rules of these arrangements?
I'll give you a hint. It's not you.
It's not you. You are the minority partner in a limited partnership with the federal government. And you don't even have you barely have a voting voice, unfortunately, barely. And with all the stuff that seems to be getting uncovered with things in current events, things are far worse than we feared. Sorry, I was thinking of Harry Potter there. But anyway,
I've never even seen Harry Potter.
Oh, you should see it sometime, especially the fifth one. It's the government conspiracy taking over Hogwarts. But anyway, sorry, getting off track here. I think I'm done with my notes here on this. But basically, with retirement planning accounts, tread carefully, know what you're getting into. They are not as user-friendly as they appear. And if you're planning to actually be successful in life, at some point they will become a hindrance, not a benefit.
Yeah, so it's kind of like anything else.
It depends.
Yeah, and if you don't understand it, ask questions, right? So, and try to figure out what is the most beneficial for you to do and what is going to not be as beneficial. So that way, when you're making decisions and you're looking at all of these things that are available to you, I guess, in these different avenues you can take for the retirement planning stage of it, it's more of figure out which one makes sense with your risk tolerance, with how much you need access to liquidity and capital, with how much you're able to contribute, understanding the fees involved in these accounts and how that affects how it grows and the distribution on both ends of the spectrum. So, and obviously, like I said before, the amount of risk that particular fund has in it. And, like David said, with these target funds, the idea is that it's going to be more aggressive, right, in the beginning, and then kind of taper off. The problem is that in the beginning, if it's more aggressive and we have, the whatever it is that you're invested in doesn't perform well, what are they going to do then? Leave it aggressive so that they can try to make up for it? And then if that doesn't work, and then, so you got to be careful with which funds you pick. And I guess that's where you can talk to one of these so-called experts that your company gives you to talk to. But of course, that costs money too if you want to talk to one of their supposed experts about it. So
Well, there's different service levels on that. So
Right.
let's touch on that real briefly. And as we always say, we're not giving securities advice. We say that at the very beginning and the very end of our podcast. You can't hold us responsible for anything you try to do on your own. You can't blame us for anything. Um, However, that being said, mutual funds, which is what almost all 401k plans have, is mutual funds. Mutual funds are managed to the prospectus, not your risk tolerance.
That's correct.
So let's put it this way. If and one of my favorite funds, back 2008, it went down 30%, not 50, but 30. Um, the mutual fund managers, they cannot arbitrarily say, hey, you know what? The economy is about to go off on a cliff and let's move 75% of our holdings to cash. They legally cannot do that by law unless it's allowed to in the prospectus. And because they can't, they have to go with the economic dive. They have to. They cannot, they can only invest according to what is outlined in the prospectus. That's it. Whereas with assets under management, institutional money management strategies, they can do those things because they have a client relationship with you. You're paying them a fee to manage according to a particular asset allocation model and or tactical asset management, again, to a risk tolerance. So there's different things there, but 401k plans almost never have that option in there. However, you can always call 1-800-NO-HELP. Sorry, that's the was it Nick Murray calls it that. If you want to do all of your investing on your own, you call 1-800-NO-HELP. They can help you. They can tell you what they have. They cannot tell you what you should do. That's the difference. They can tell you what they've got. They can tell you, here's our menu. What do you want to do? That's all they can do. There is an advisory service, and you would pay that as a percentage of your assets under management. So let's suppose that I'm going to make up a number here. If your 401k plan fee happened to be 1%, which that might be on the low side, but go with me here. If that was 1%, you can actually hire them to be your investment portfolio managers for maybe another 0.5 to another 1% on top of it. And then you now have an advisory relationship with the plan custodian. It's not your employer. They can't give you advice. You don't want financial advice from HR. Okay, I'm telling you that right now. HR is good at telling you what they have. Here's all of our employee benefits. You don't want them for advice. Anyway, that's a rant. No, you want the plan custodian, which is the 800 number or the website of the company, Vanguard, Fidelity, whoever else is managing your plan. That's who you want to get the advice from. And they have licensed representatives that are on their staff, but you can hire them to be your plan advisor and do that accordingly. You might be able to work with the actual broker of record on the plan, but usually they're working with the C-suite, the CEOs, CFOs, CIO, CMO, and CIEIO, whoever else is there.
And
They're
the
working
BFDs.
usually in the BFDs. Yeah. And quite frankly, that's where I want to be. If I'm working with business owners, that's who I want to be working with. And I would be, if I was licensed to do so, I'd be giving them such advice and being tailored and such, not necessarily the rank and file. So the rank and file usually get 1-800 number. Okay. And so you could get ideas and advice and recommendations, or at least suggestions. They can tell you what they have. They just can't tell you what you should do unless you're going to pay for that advice. So it's there. For example, one of the things as a non-licensed representative, I do not have securities licenses at all right now, but I can still do a 401k plan for a company. It's called a non-registered group variable annuity. And you can have those put in place. But the idea is that the business is, I forgot the rationale, but I had it all outlined. I just looked this up like 3 weeks ago. I'm doing the module for retirement planning. But the idea is that you're contracting with the company, you're doing the plan design. You're not choosing the investments. The investments are pre-chosen. And then the participants, they get to go in there and they can figure out what they want for whatever their asset allocation model that they want. So I'm not giving them investment advice, but I am putting together the plan structure and such. And I don't mind getting paid on that, for wherever it makes sense. So even for non-licensed people like me, I have an insurance license. I can sell an annuity. It's a non-registered group variable annuity, or there's even a group fixed indexed annuity, which I probably might be more inclined to offer. This way, there's no losses in that particular contract. So anyway, I just went off on a tangent. I didn't plan to, but such as it is, I can't think of anything. Oh, there's vesting. We could talk very briefly about vesting. Just because your employer offers a match doesn't mean you get to keep it all. And it is interesting. Sometimes it's perplexing. I thought I had $15,000 of a match. No, but you're only with the company for 3 years. You get 60% of that 15,000 that you get to roll out. You don't get to keep the whole thing. So the difference goes back to the employer. So here's the thing: is that for the vesting periods, usually it's for your first year after you complete 1 year of service. That's what they call it. It's years of service. After the first year, it's 20%. Then it's 40, 60, 80. After your 5th year, then you get to keep 100% of the match of whatever they match to your plan as you contributed. That's how that works. If you leave before that time, you only get a percentage of it. So it's something to kind of keep in mind. And yes, it's there so that you can have a vested interest of staying with the company. That's all there is to it. And here's the interesting thing is that if you left sooner than 5 years and a certain amount had to go back, the company doesn't get to keep that tax deduction. They have to re-report that back as earnings because they got a tax deduction for putting the money in your account. Now they have to take it back and say, oh, no, we got to keep that back. So now they have to pay a little bit of income tax on that. Not a big deal, but it's one of the ripple effects of all these things. All right. I can't think of anything else I probably have missed. Pretty good brief overview. So don't enroll in 401k plans until you're ready to enroll in 401k plans. And as Mike said, you got to know who to talk to on this stuff. And while we may not be your securities advisors, we kind of know how this stuff works. So if you want to reach out, you could reach out. You find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Find us on the podcast. We've got our contact information, although I keep getting spammed from YouTube, so I took off the email address from there. So, but there's always a way to reach us. We're not hard to find. And if you'd like us to look over your plan, we can look over everything. We just cannot give you advice on the underlying holdings. We cannot tell you to buy, sell, hold, any analysis of individual or portfolio securities. But we can tell you, and we can't even do a risk assessment, even though I know how to find that information. It's not hard to find that information, but we're not supposed to do that kind of thing. It's one of the unfortunate limitations, but we're not going to be held liable that way. So, all right, Mike, any other thoughts, final thoughts, first thoughts?
No, I think we covered it pretty well here, at least for a cursory overview. We're at about an hour, so I think that's pretty good for today. We try to keep it on track here. And who's GC? Do you know who
I don't
GC
know. I know it's not Grant Cardone. We're not that good.
We're not that popular yet.
We're not that popular, not at this point yet. So
no.
But yeah,
anybody that has questions, feel free to reach out. We'll help you the best we can. Like Kendra said, we can't necessarily give certain bits of advice, but we can, at least look things over for you and give you some general ideas about stuff.
All right, guys. So, and that of course applies to consumers. We primarily have a lot of agents that listen to us. They want to steal our information. I get it, and we welcome it because I like the engagement. It's fun, but that offers for consumers.
Right.
But then again, here's a good one here. Can a business owner deduct a premium for a policy for their employees? Yes and no.
It depends.
I swear. Here's the thing. Can a business owner deduct a premium for a policy? If the policy is in the pension plan, absolutely, because it's automatically deducted as part of the pension contribution. If it's a, let's call it a non-qualified deferred comp plan, and the employer is funding this, what they're doing is that they're deducting it as salary This is the bonus 162 type of thing. Deducting it as salary and even maybe a bonus on top of it to pay the taxes. They're paying it out to the employee as income, and they're going to declare it as income, and then using that to buy the policy. And it's for the employee. The employee is the owner of the policy. The employee names their own beneficiary. They have access to the policy unless they put together some sort of golden handcuff, that kind of a thing, and the vesting provisions. But generally, that's how that would work. So it's not really tax deductible because of a premium. It's tax deductible because they're doing it as income to the employee. In that part, that's where that works. A key person policy where the business is going to be the ultimate beneficiary. So suppose you have a very valuable person, a CEO, CIO, CMO, CEEI, whatever, whoever that is, and they get a key man policy on them, they cannot deduct those premiums because if they do, then the proceeds are taxable.
Taxable. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And that's a big problem.
That's a big problem. And here's the thing. I'm not going to be their CPA, but I will certainly make sure that I have a document that says these premiums are or are not tax deductible according to whatever. Show this to your CPA. I will not be responsible if your CPA says you can deduct it and we tell you you can't. And here's why. I have no problem doing that because there's too many stories on that. And that doesn't mean the government finds out that that money's taxable. I just don't want the liability.
Yeah, well, and if it's done the wrong way and you don't say anything, you better have great E&O insurance. There's
that. Well,
it's going to be a rough time for you.
There's a guy, he does, I follow some car channels. So this one guy, he says, I am the warranty. Well, I am my best E&O coverage, but that doesn't mean I want to be without E&O coverage. But
right.
I'm like, I dare you to get something past me. I mean, I'm at that point. It's like, I dare you to even try because I am so on top of it usually. And if I'm not on top of it, I usually know where to get the exact right information to make sure I'm on top of it. Appreciate Daryl. Thank you very much. So yes, premiums can be deducted by a business. Usually not, but there are some possibilities, and usually it's deducted because of income, as income being paid to someone, not necessarily because it's a premium. So, right. Yeah, if that makes sense, wow, I love when I can make these make sense because if I can make it simple, that's gonna be really good for the business owner course I'm working on. So, if I make it simple, everybody gets to do better. So, I think we'll leave it at that. Mike, any additional thoughts?
Nope. Yeah, they covered that.
We're good.
Then we're
so
good.
Next week we're going to cover investments and compounding interest and compounding growth and stuff because I've got I was going to say calculator. That's a triggering word for you, Mike. No, it's not a calculator. It's I have an Excel spreadsheet that I put together, and it's eye-opening. This spreadsheet, just because the way it models our decisions. And so, yeah, you're not going to want to miss next week. So there, I'm probably giving a tease for what we're going to talk about next week. All right. Catch you all next week. Same bat time. No, I don't know. I can't say same bat time. We keep changing it around a little bit. So we'll figure out. It will be around the same general time. All right. We'll catch you all next time.
It was my fault today. I got home late. So whatever, Shoot.
Hey, things happen. We're busy people. We have lives outside of this. We'll figure it out. All right. Catch you next time. You have been listening to an episode of the Financial Advocacy Podcast. As a reminder, you can't hold us accountable for any actions you take on your own. Just like all financial entertainment shows, we are not providing legal, tax, or securities investment advice of any kind. We do provide general investment information for educational purposes only, and we will discuss alternative financial strategies that do not contain liquid securities. You can see all of our disclosures and disclaimers at our website at www.financialadvocacypodcast.com. Look both ways for across the street. Thank you for listening, and make it a great day.